cultural adjustments. So any way you look, the challenge to the individual, I believe, is very, very high. And therefore, I say you can't be just world class. You've got to be better than world class. Shoot higher than world class, and you'll end up at world class. Now, I want to ask the question of Kai-Fu, because a bunch of questions came in a sense, asking, could someone on the panel comment on, in greater depth, on the critique of the educational system in China? Kai-Fu and I have had personal experience in this area. We're both aware, for example, of a project where some people were trying to start a private university in China just focused on computer science, to be run by world-class talent from around the world. And this had great appeal to the most senior leadership. When we went down into the bureaucracy at the Ministry of Education, it got tougher and tougher and tougher to the point where the project got killed. So the reality of this is, and I'm sure you all know this, is when you go down deep into the actual specific execution problems, they are very, very tough, intractable problems. Kai-Fu, you also lectured and taught, I don't know, 50 different universities in China, so you've got a very deep sense of this. So if you can comment in some detail on this, I think it'd be helpful.
Sure. Yeah, so I think if you look at the top 50 universities, their talents are all, not all that different. They're all great, because the way the national examination works is, it depends on what province you're from. So if you scored 600 in one province, you might get into Tsinghua, but in another province, you might only get into the number 18th school. Also depends on how you fill out your priorities. So it's somewhat random and non-deterministic as to what best school you get into, unless you're really the top 0.01% of the scoring. So the people at the top, I think 20 schools are all really great, top 50 all quite good. But somehow, when they graduate, only the top 5 or 6 schools are able to produce talent that consistently get into the top companies, like Google, Microsoft, Cisco, or HP. And I think what happens is the government has chosen to really take the top schools and really develop them to be world class. I think there's some merits to doing that. You want to set a role model, an example that others can follow. But also I think that creates quite a large division in the quality of schools. So I think it's quite important going forward for there to be a broader participation in the universities, so that the top 20 or 50 schools can turn out great talent. Some of the challenges that I run into when you're going to a non-top 5 or 10 school are that the professors are typically not as good. Some of them, because the Cultural Revolution created a gap of talent in China, and that was quite damaging to the quality of teaching in China. Surely that will recover over time. And then I think there's also less funding, and I think there's also a greater desire to show faster results. As Michael mentioned, I think in China, everybody has a sense of urgency to achieve something in impossible time. So a talent, someone wants to achieve their peak at age of 35, but the university often also wants to show results in 3 years or 5 years. And they tend to spend money on building beautiful campuses. But I think what's more important is to balance that with great teaching environment, curriculum, and professors. And undoubtedly that will happen over time, but it's taken perhaps longer than some of us would hope, at least at the non-top elite school levels.
Jia-Bin, thank you.
Okay. I landed in China in 1992, and till last year, I left Cisco. In total, it's about 14 to 15 years. And during the 15 years period of time, I've been with HP, Microsoft, and Cisco. During that 15 years, there's a different stage in the market for talent pool. We have the maturity problem. We also have the some of the skill set problem in the market. So each company stage that I've been with, we all have to deal with it, and then we have to find a way to recruit people and also retain, train, and further develop them to either work and stay with the company or even go abroad to work with headquarters people in the US. First start from my experience with HP, that was 1992 when I first landed in China. we have joint venture structures, mainly because of the regulatory issues. It's difficult to get people a hukou. That's kind of the residence permit to get people allowed to work in a major city like Beijing or Shanghai. So we have to go through FESCO or some government organization in order to get that special privilege. So the best way to do it is engage your joint ventures. And for HP at that stage, we engage with organization under the Ministry of Electronic Industry. So that was very helpful for HP to get the access to the talent pool and also hire them and able to send them abroad. But most important is to get them a permit to work in a place like Shanghai or Beijing to start the work. And then after I joined Microsoft, that was a very interesting stage. But there's one lesson that I learned that I'd like to share with you. You know, before you started to work in China, the most important thing is how much acceptance you can get by the local government and the local societies. For a company like Microsoft, it's very controversial at then. You know, people always talking about intellectual property rights, especially my super boss, Bill Gates. Every time when he was talking to press, he's always talking about how bad the situation is regarding the IPR in China. So you can imagine that when we start a business in China, what kind of pressure, and also the IPR situation was, let me put it this way, a big room to improve at then. So we have a lot of challenger work to start the business there. And the easier way to start doing that is to find good people from school or from research institute and people who already experience about software and like to learn from the software business, and then they like to grow their business as well. So we started to work with the Chinese Academy of Science and the Tsinghua University, and luckily we got pretty good support from those organizations. And for Microsoft, we're also thinking about what we can do in long term because the talent pool is so limited and also the market is not really mature yet. So what we can do is how we can train our own talent pool, which we can use for continuous few years, and also we can also help grow our business. So what we did is we started to have what we call the MCP 2000 programs. It's Microsoft Certified Professional. I still remember 1993 when I did a presentation to Bill Gates. I was asking him about $400,000 US to run the program in order to have 2,000 certified professional before year 2000. That was how MCP 2000 come from. And you know, after the close to 30 minutes presentation, he told me that, you know, Jia-Bin, you are really inexperienced about running this in a new country. 400,000 is definitely not enough. You need 1.2 million. I give you 1.2 million to start programs. So until now, that the data I just got day before, actually it's before last week, Microsoft in China, now they have more than 20,000 professionals who got certified as Microsoft Certified System Engineer or Certified Programming Expertise. They have more than 20,000 every year graduate from their certification programs. And this kind of certification program that really create a big pool for Microsoft to recruit talent and also help the business, because those people who've been trained up by the program, they will make their living, they will fight for what they know about the product, and they will also always support Microsoft business and grow together with Microsoft. But what important that I remember at my Microsoft day is we are the first company who provide the stock option. You know, it was a very, very primitive stage at year 1995. There's no regulation in the market talking about how they're going to tax for stock option and what kind of a regulation that a company like Cisco, a foreign company, you are allowed to give employees stock option. And also, I face a lot of pressure from headquarters that they say, how come, you know, if you give